Thank you. We've got a quorum already. So may I now call the meeting to order. So please invite the administration and the deputations in. I would like to ask members this question. We don't have many deputations coming today. 22 have already signed up. I don't know if all of them will come, but the maximum number is 22. So after we've met the deputations, we can study the content of the order so that we don't have to find another time slot before the Chinese New Year for another meeting. All right? Good morning. So this is the subcommittee on the Minimum Wage Ordinance Amendment of Schedule 3 Notice 2015 and Employment Ordinance Amendment of 9th Schedule Notice 2015. We have a total of 22 deputations with us. And from the administration, we have Mr. Matthew Zhang, Secretary for Labour and Welfare, Ms. Mabel Lee, Assistant Commissioner for Labour, Mr. William McChee Tong, Chief Labour Officer, Labour Department, Mr. Desmond Howe, Principal Economist, Economic Analysis and Business Facilitation Unit, Financial Secretary's Office, and Mr. Jonathan Look, Government Counsel, Department of Justice. So I think we should start now. So let me invite the deputations to speak. First, we have Mr. Thomas Wu from the Hong Kong Catering Industry Association. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members. The catering sector opposes the upward adjustment of the statutory minimum wage. In fact, consumption in Hong Kong has been on a decline, and so I don't think the statutory minimum wage should be increased by 8.3%, by $2.5 to $32.5 per hour. We are very disappointed. We don't think we really have a bright future. Operating costs are at a very high level, and and under this vicious cycle, the industry won't be able to transfer the costs or the extra cost to the customers. In fact, small and medium-sized restaurants find it difficult to continue to operate. Their business is simply not viable. And so if there is a downturn in the economy, we won't be able to remain resilient. I think the government's estimate of the impact of the increase in SMW on wages is an underestimate and is misleading. I think they have to take into account the rippling effect. Rentals account for 15% of our costs, and then wages 30%. And may even go up to 40% when the business is not good. And so if the statutory minimum wage is increased further, then there will be a very serious impact on a labor-intensive industry like the catering industry. And Also, we must not forget about the impact on wages and also on prices. And so we don't think that the statutory minimum wage should be increased. Thank you. Each deputation, I would like to remind deputations that you only be given 3 minutes, and the secretary or the clerk has asked me to remind deputations that their verbal and written submissions will not be covered by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Next, we have Mr. Chen Chit-pan from the New People's Party. He hasn't arrived yet. So we have Ms. Kwok Sao Mui from the Federation of Hong Kong and Kowloon Labour Unions. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. The Minimum Wage Commission has proposed an 8.3% increase in the SMW from $30 to $32.5. But in our view, the SMW rate should be increased to $37. So in fact, we are very disappointed with the Commission for its decision. Now concerning food items, clothing, transport, housing, all such costs have risen very quickly. But then for our wages, increase in wages cannot catch up with inflation. $32.5 per hour is not enough. The statutory minimum wage should be set at a level that can protect the grassroots workers. First of all, I think the increase will only have a minimal impact on business costs. According to the Minimum Wage Commission, assuming that there is a test at $37 per hour, the impact on business and business costs will be less than 3%. And so even if the hourly rate is $37, the impact on employers will still be very small. In fact, rental costs are the heaviest burden of the operators. Employers say that if wages continue to rise, then many businesses may close down, and as a result, jobs will be lost. But we can see that since the implementation of the SMW, the unemployment rate has been consistently low. And then we think there should be an annual review of the statutory minimum wage. Now, concerning the proposed $32.5, this is based on the figures for the second quarter of 2013. So we can see that, in fact, wage levels always lag behind price movements. And so we are of the view that there should be an annual review instead of a review once every 2 years. And a basket of factors should be used to set the statutory minimum wage, including CSSA rates. We want the statutory minimum wage to be able to keep up with the times. Policies must keep up with the times. In fact, in Guangdong, they have an annual review of their statutory minimum wage. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Ms. Yu Mei-wan from the Hong Kong Buildings Management and Security Workers General Union. So it is proposed that the SMW be increased from $30 to $32.5. We have been asking for an annual review, but the administration has refused. So the union is extremely angry and disappointed. We have been hoping that there will be fewer people who belong to the working poor. The SMW was initially $28, and for a short period of time, the number of working poor people decreased. But then the administration decided that there should only be a review once every 2 years, and as a result, our wages can't catch up with inflation. For security guards, what if the employer is unwilling to pay for the rest day and to provide a meal break? Then in 2015 May, even if the rate is $32.5 per hour, then for a security guard who works 8 hours, he will only get about $9,000 per month. And according to the government's report, for security workers, in fact, they earn only $33 per hour. And some, in fact, only get the statutory minimum wage and no more. So in other words, only $5,460 per month. How can you expect these people to be able to make ends meet? Inflation is rampant, housing costs keep rising, and so we can see that the problem of the working poor is becoming more and more serious. These people have to support their families. They have to pay for the education expenses of their children. And according to Professor Wong Hong of the Chinese University, for 3P family, the monthly expenditure exceeds $12,000. But then a working person has to support 1.58 persons, and so in fact we are of the view that in fact for a living wage it must not be lower than $38 per hour.
Therefore, the increase to minimum wage should not be less than that for the general workers. And the administration, if it's willing to conduct an annual review, then the rate of increase would not be very significant, and it should be acceptable to both sides. Basically, we should ensure that the wage level should be able to meet the basic living cost of a family, and it should not be less than $38, and there should be an annual review of the level. Next, Mr. Ma Kim Leung from the Institution of Dining Art. I'm representing the institution, and with regard to Schedule 3 of the MWO, and also the amendment of and also the 9th schedule of the Employment Ordinance, we represent some 3,000 catering establishments, and therefore we'd like to express our views on the relevant proposals. Well, since the implementation of statutory minimum wage in May 2011, statutory minimum wage rippling effect is beginning to emerge, and therefore for labor-intensive industries like the catering industry, we have been affected very seriously, and the cost has also gone up, and the net profit for the catering industry would also be relatively low, and therefore SMW would also pose a lot of pressure on the catering industry. Yes, some might think that hiring cleansing workers would need more than $10,000, and at present for the frontline workers, they're already getting more than $30 an hour in terms of the wages, and that should not be affected by the increase of the SMW to $32.5. But then the rippling effect is that there would be escalation in wages for different ranks of staff, and for the unskilled workers, if we were to implement statutory minimum wage, then the other wages would also go up. And during the Occupy movement, we have already recorded losses to our profit, and given the ever-rising rentals in Hong Kong, many catering establishments might not be able to survive. And given the fact that we are unable to further reduce our costs, many of the many of us will have to close down. While we try to protect the wage level for the grassroots workers, we also hope that the administration will also try to help those of us who have been working very hard to contribute to our economy. We are running catering establishments. There should be waivers to rates and also profits tax and also licensing fees and so on. And I've also got some statistics for your consideration. So you can see how the statutory minimum wage has been affecting us. According to the CNS department, since 2012, in 2013 and 2014, every year in terms of the gross turnover, in 2012 it went up by 5%, and then in 2013 it went up by some 3.5%, and then in 2014 it went up by another 3.5%. But then after deducting cost adjustments, in fact, in terms of the net profit, it has been coming down. In 2012, actually it already came down by 0.4%, and then in 2013 it came down by some 0.8%, and then in 2014 it came down by another 1%. Thank you. Mr. Hon TANG Ka-piu from Left 21. Well, the statutory minimum wage went up from $28 to $30, and now you're going to increase that by some $1.25 a year. So the workers really find that pitiable. In fact, for the large consortiums and also the capitalists, in fact, they would share profits, and also they would have their wages or salary go up by some 20%. But then for those who have been working very hard, and they have also got to work without sparing the time to spend with their families. So is it fair? And also for the biennial review, you will not be able to catch up with inflation. And for many workers, they're actually living from hand to mouth. And yet the level is still lower than CSSA, and therefore for $32.5, you're actually trying to make sure that they will not die because of lack of means. So if the statutory minimum wage is kept at such a low level, then how can they support themselves? And also for many of you here, your bosses are in the catering industry. Well, please be honest. How can wages be higher than that for rentals? And why is it that you're still staying in your business? And if you try to suppress those workers who are not able to support themselves, then why don't you ask the administration to introduce rent control? And also in these issues, that would also show why we have to fight for true democracy, because C.Y. Leung said that for people earning less than $14,000, and if we allow genuine democracy, then we will not be able to uphold our present standards, and we will have to cater for their needs. And for paternity leave, we'd like to get more days, but then the administration is not willing to give us 3 days. So how can you say that you have to work for people's livelihood, and every time when we put up a demand, they would say that they will have to study the matter, and that they would also have to conduct more researches. But then what have they done? Nothing. And the FTU, please do not be loud on your words, and yet you will not be translating them into action. So please do not support the proposal to increase that by such a low level. And also we have been subjected to a lot of pressure and a lot of exploitation. So we would like to have a genuine democracy and universal suffrage, and I also like to get universal retirement protection for workers. Next, Liberal Party, Mr. Victor Ng. All right. Since the introduction of statutory minimum wage, it was set at $28, and now it's been increased to $30, and now is to go up by another 8.3% to $32.5. In fact, people are trying to get more, but then we are sustaining losses, because about a year or so ago, at fast food chains, I would only have to spend some $28 for a breakfast or for a set breakfast, but now I have to pay more than $30. So statutory minimum wage has pushed up the costs and prices. Well, taking a dishwasher as an example, why is it so difficult to hire one? All right, you will have to pay them very handsomely before you can recruit one, and if you're not able to do so, then you will have to get the cleansing companies to do the job for you. And many people have also become security guards. So there has been a lot of misjudgment. All right, you might say that, the increase is not very significant. It's just to go up by a few dollars. In fact, the Occupy movement has affected many sectors, and the impacts are beginning to emerge. In fact, the statutory minimum wage, the impact is also very significant, because I'm also in the SME sector, and many employers are having difficulties, and they would also have to get unsecured loans from the banks. In other words, that they do not have to use their properties as collaterals in getting those loans. So they are working very hard in order to stay afloat in their business. And in fact, the impact would be felt by everyone. So I'm against increasing that further. I think that it should be kept at the current level. And within the Liberal Party in 2014, we also conducted an opinion poll. We interviewed some 4,100 respondents, and over half were in favor of keeping the statutory minimum wage at its current level. And if it's to go up further, all right, if it's to go up to $40, $50, then it will never stop. And then for the SMEs and different sectors in the community will be seriously affected. Just on the face of it, you might be earning $1,000, $2,000 more a month, but then if you have to pay more in your traveling expenses and everything else, you will also suffer. And therefore, the administration will have to be very careful in considering any further increase. Well, please don't think that you're just increasing that by $2, $3. In fact, you're talking about 8% or 10%. It's very hefty already. So please be very careful in considering this, because it's going to affect many sectors, and many bosses will have to fold up their businesses. And there will be massive layoffs. So who will suffer? It will be the grassroots workers who will suffer. And therefore, please be very careful in considering this. Thank you. Next, concerned group on statutory minimum wage, Mr. Fan Chiang. Good morning, everyone. I'm from the concerned group, and my name is Fan Chiang. And before I state our stance, I'd just like to give you an example about people selling wonton, and for the wages in different quarters. Well, it's a very important production cost in every sector. Well, taking a shop selling wonton as an example, all right, it will have to pay for the rentals, and also the food costs, and also electricity, and so on. All right, it will have to pay for the ingredients cost. So before their workers get any wages, in fact, behind the scene, there are already a lot of other costs. For example, they have to have their production staff producing the ingredients and so on. Before we add in the food costs, the costs have already gone up, and also for the employer of the shop, the cost will then be passed on to the consumers. In other words, for the wonton noodle that I'm selling, the cost will be passed on to the consumers. And if I were to increase the wages for my workers, then the cost of the wonton noodle would also go up. But then for my workers, other than being my workers, they are also consumers in the community. When their wages go up by $1 per hour, then does that mean that the wonton noodle would also see an increase in price by $1? So would they be able to afford to buy a bowl of wonton noodle? No, that's not true. And therefore, it's just a game of numbers. So would the workers benefit? In fact, by increasing wages, that would only push up prices, and that's not going to help the workers. Well, on the face of it, you might see a wage rise, but then would that lead to an improvement in their livelihood? Would they be able to counter inflation? I don't think that's possible. So even if you were to increase that to $100 an hour, in fact, in the market, the prices might mean that they will have to pay $200 for a bowl of wonton noodle. Would they be able to afford it? So it's a very simple example of selling wonton noodle, and therefore, would you still be in favor of increasing statutory minimum wage? Would you just blindly believe in the figure? And do you really want to see wage goes up? And then for the consumers, they will still not be able to afford many items. So in the end, if statutory minimum wage were to go up any further, then the prices will go up further, and then there will be a higher inflation. And then for those workers who are paid on an hourly basis, they will not be able to afford to buy many of the consumables. So even for the rest of us, we will also not be able to catch up with inflation. And therefore, our concern group is against adjusting statutory minimum wage to a higher level, we insist that we should keep it at the current level. There should be no change. Thank you. Next, Mr. Tang Ka-piu from the Hong Kong Federation of Restaurants and Related Trades. Well, we believe that statutory minimum wage has kept our prices at a high level, and we only managed to get a 2% profit margin. And then furthermore, we are also facing a lot of increase in fees and charges. For example, the MPF has also gone up, and also for municipal solid waste, the fees and charges would also go up, and that would only add to the pressure of the industry. So costs has been going up, and the operating environment has been very bad. And on top of that, the catering industry is not like other industries. We will not be able to pass the cost on to the consumers directly, and therefore many of us are facing a lot of pressure, and we are very worried about the future. And also, we are also faced with a severe shortage of labor, and statutory minimum wage is set at a present level, and we are already paying our workers at more than $40 an hour. On top of that, there would also be indirect costs. We will have to increase their wages further in order to retain our staff, and therefore our pressure is already very high. And there are different policies that would also have an impact on us. And for the economic risk, we also feel that the future is very uncertain. And also, if you look at our business growth, there has been negative growth for successive years. That's why, in reviewing statutory minimum wage, we also hope that SMEs' affordability can also be taken into account. And our federation is also of the view that on adjustment of the statutory minimum wage, we also have our views, because if it goes up further, then that would only push up operating costs, and the rippling effect would also be felt, and our operating costs will continue to go up. We also hope that statutory minimum wage should be kept at $30, because what we are paying is already much higher than the statutory level.
We also agree that a review should not be carried out once every 2 years, but neither do we support any review. I think a review should be carried out on a need basis. In fact, we are paying wages higher than the minimum wage level, and if there is a shortage of labor supply, wages will continue to go up. And so the government should consider importation of labor, but of course not at the expense of the interests of local workers. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Lo Ho Yun from the Fourth Right Caucus. In fact, I only wanted to talk about the minimum wage of disabled workers, but then the Liberal Party just now, Mr. Ng said that the minimum wage was too high, so I think he should go to restaurants operated by Mr. Tommy Cheung and enjoy the $32.5 per hour rate. And I want to say that the 8% in fact covers a 2-year period. And then with regard to the mechanism for minimum wages for the disabled, I think it's unfair. It's against human rights. So I don't know why this assessment mechanism has not been reviewed by the government. According to the Convention on the disabled persons, disabled persons should be entitled to fair wages. Now, for $32.5, that's the statutory minimum wage, and there will be a discounted rate for disabled persons. So how can you expect them to be able to make ends meet with $20 per hour as the wages? I understand that the government intention is to try to safeguard the employment of workers. But then according to an oral reply given by LegCo, we can see that in fact the mechanism has failed to safeguard the employment of disabled persons. I think this assessment mechanism for disabled persons should be scrapped, and in the interim there should be wage subsidies given by the government to disabled persons who have been assessed. Now, according to the administration, it doesn't really know how many disabled workers need the subsidy, but I think you can refer to the number of disabled workers who have been assessed. And in fact, the minimum wage can't solve all the employment problems faced by disabled persons. The CE in his policy address said that there would be tax incentives for employers who are willing to employ disabled persons. So my requests are as follows. I think there should be an annual review, and there should be a living wage, and there should also be basic protection for the grassroots workers. Mr. Tommy Cheung. I hope that there will not be any misunderstanding. I hope that people will not think that I oppose the SMW or an increase in SMW because of my own interest. In fact, there are many representatives from the catering industry here, and you can see that they find it they share the same view. All right, next we have Mr. Leung from the Left 21 Education Department. In fact, I intended to bring 25 aluminum cans into this conference room, but was only allowed to bring in one. I want to say that the minimum wage rate will only be increased by $2.5. This 689, this is the 689 administration's response to people's difficulties, and there is collusion between the government and the businessmen. Now, SMW should protect people's basic wages, and basic wages are important to offer minimum protection for people's livelihood. So 4 years ago, we were told that we should pocket the statutory minimum wage rate first. Now, according to Mr. Matthew Cheung, a minimum wage is not equivalent to a living wage. So how do you think people will want to work if they work hard and earn wages that are less than the CSSA payment? In fact, the government is only concerned about protecting the interests of capitalists, not workers. Now, a 50-year-old woman, not a 5-year-old child, asked me why, despite the implementation of the SMW, she had to go to the refuse collection points to try to find some aluminum cans, and she can only get $2.5 if she can sell 25 such cans. And so do you think she is able to support her whole family? Things are so expensive, and people work for an hour and still can't afford a meal. Why is it that the government doesn't want the SMW to be set at a reasonable level? In fact, the 689 said that he didn't want those earning less than $14,000 to be to be able to influence the outcome of an election. So the minimum wage, I think, should be $38, and people should be given the chance to lead a dignified life. And then there should be rest day pay, and there should be meal breaks, and there should also be an annual review. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Kingsley Tam from the FTU Rights and Benefits Committee. The FTU finds the proposed increase in the SMW regrettable. Now, the SMW is supposed to ensure that people can live dignified lives with their wages. But then, since the implementation of the SMW in 2011, the wage level has not been able, or the SMW level has not been able to catch up with inflation. So we need to try to catch up with increases in prices, and also we need to make sure that people can really lead decent lives. People work because they need to support themselves and their families financially. If a person works hard and can't even support himself financially, then what's the purpose of going to work? I think the SMW must be able to catch up with inflation. And the FTU strongly advocates the idea of an annual review. If we don't have annual reviews, then all the data and figures and statistics given to the Commission are outdated figures, and as a result, people's wages won't be able to catch up with inflation. And so the minimum wage level should be $39.7, and second, there should be an annual review of the SMW rate. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Vinci Wong from the Kwai Chung Labour Rights Concern Group. Thank you. I represent grassroots workers in Kwai Chung. When they learned that the SMW will be increased to $32.5, they were extremely angry. Only an extra $2.5 per hour. Now, do you know that if you have lunch not at home, then you pay $30 to $40, and you won't be able to get even a drink. You have to pay extra for the drink. And if you go to the market, you know how expensive food items are. According to the catering industry, wage costs account for a larger share of the operating cost than rental costs. Is that the real situation? In fact, many shop operators have told me that they had to close down their business not because of expenditure on wages, but rather due to expenditure in terms of rentals. And then it is said that wage discrepancies have been narrowed, and the nominal wage of workers have increased. But then, do you know whether people can really make ends meet with their wages? We have had inflation in Hong Kong since 2010. And for people living in private housing, there was a cumulative increase in rentals of 9.6% last year. And for the MTRCL, the fares went up by 15% over a 5-year period. So there must be an annual review of the SMW rate, and the rate should at least be $38. Thank you. Next, we have the CTU, Mr. Punman Hon. Thank you. It is really regrettable that the SMW will only be increased to $32.5 and that the administration has refused to carry out an annual review. In fact, the past increases in the SMW rate were lower than inflation. So what's the use of having the SMW? Now, when the legislation was passed, the intention was that there should be adequate protection for grassroots workers concerning their wages. But you can see that the 2 reviews we have seen have been disappointing. Prices have gone up by 20%. But then after the 2 reviews, in fact, the increase in the SMW has only been 16%. So I want to say that in fact grassroots workers have only got a 16% wage increase, but then employees at large have got 20%. So in fact, you are in fact widening the wealth gap. Mr. Matthew just talked to a cleaning worker and asked him or her whether $32.5 per hour is enough. I believe if you ask 100 workers this question, all the 100 workers will give you the same answer. These are grassroots workers. Why are you helping employers to exploit them? Many LegCo members representing the business sector say that restaurants have to close down, or they may have to fire some employees because of wage increases. But then for employees at large, they have enjoyed good wage increases. Why is it that grassroots workers do not get the same treatment?
According to latest press reports, well, the business sector has been saying that because of the Occupy movement, we cannot afford to increase wages further. In fact, it cannot be justified, and it's most ridiculous. Well, it's been many years, and we've been asking for an annual review because with the biennial review, both sides will suffer because for the workers, all right, by the time when there is a review, they would ask for a 10% hike. But then the employers would be most reluctant in doing so, and therefore the negotiations will become more difficult. That's why we are asking for an annual review. Thank you. Next, Chosen Power, Mr. Chen Chun-kit. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm representing the mentally incapacitated persons in getting higher wages. In fact, I think for the assessment is not just a violation of human rights. I'm just talking about some basic logic. All right, in setting up the statutory minimum wage, the administration never said that an individual's competence or capability would be used as the yardstick in measuring the wages that he should get. In fact, for different people with different abilities, of course, they would be paid differently. But then how come for the mentally disabled persons, why do they have to undergo this test before they can get statutory minimum wage? In fact, the administration has also come up with this mechanism to safeguard us so that we can voluntarily subject ourselves to discrimination by undergoing this test. And then the employers would be exempted from breaching the disability discrimination ordinance. With regard to the test, the administration said that it would encourage the mentally disabled persons to find jobs. But then for someone working in a sheltered workshop, the administration would also have to spend money on him. On average, you would be talking about some $3,000+ per person per month, so that the mentally handicapped persons will be able to get a few $100s as allowance. But then if these persons do not work in the sheltered workshop, and if they find jobs in the open market under the assessment mechanism, they would not get the statutory minimum wage, and then the administration will also not be giving them a cent. I don't understand how one can say that this would encourage the mentally disabled persons to go out to find jobs. So does that mean that for persons or mentally disabled persons who are reluctant to find jobs in the open market, is it better for them to stay in sheltered workshops? So we will undergo training through our life so that we won't have to find jobs in the open market. And according to the administration statistics, for those who have undergone the productivity test, they have given the total figure, and then in their report they say that well, for the disabled workers, they have already benefited from this. But then if you look at the report, it just says that how many tests have been conducted, but then no mention was made about the outcome of those who have undergone this test. So will they be able to stay in their jobs, or have they been dismissed by their bosses? So how can you say that they have benefited if there is no further survey? And you've only looked at those who have joined this scheme, and also you do not have the figures concerning the disabled persons joining or undergoing this test. Unless the administration is willing to provide an assistance or allowance to those who have undergone the test, it should just scrap it all together. And there should also be simplified version and also versions for the ethnic minority groups. Next, Ms. Ao Yim Fong from the Chosen Parent Network. I'm representing the disabled persons' parents on this particular amendment. If you look at the productivity assessment, in fact, you're doing this with good intentions. But then initially when this was enacted, for the parents of the disabled, in particular for those who are mentally disabled, and also with the productivity assessment test, it's been proposed that the administration should also offer a living allowance so that they can continue to work, and they will also be able to live in dignity with the allowance or subsidy from the administration. And yet the administration has failed both, so they've only chosen one of those without doing the next, and they've also got the EOC to help them in doing this. And you say that this is to assist the disabled persons to get jobs, because without this subsidy, they would not be able to enjoy statutory minimum wage, and our children will not be able to work with dignity. And initially, for the working environment, which has a lot of flexibility, it will not be it would be difficult to implement it at the ordinary workplace, and there is no subsidy from the administration. This is a very discriminatory measure. Therefore, we hope that there can be an allowance from the administration, or else we won't be able to work with dignity. And under the relevant provision, the disabled persons should be able to enjoy a decent life. And today we still have many mentally handicapped children. They are undergoing training in the sheltered workshop, and some of us would have to get a CSSA, but then we are not eligible for the training allowance. And it's been more than 40 years and no improvement has been made. This is hard to understand. And some parents are of the view that their children, if they have to work so hard in the open market, and still if they are not able to get a statutory minimum wage, then why bother? They'd rather that their children stay in a sheltered workshop, and that would also deprive their disabled or adult children from working in the open market. So the measure is not able to help them, and also the adjustment is not able to catch up with the need of them. And therefore, we have to come up with a policy to assist the disabled in working, so that there would be a package of measures to cater for their needs. And for the disabled persons, in particular the mentally handicapped, they have to be able to work with dignity. And in 2012, according to the Commission on Disabled Workers, there has been a recommendation, and more such workers should be hired, and there should also be a work subsidy in order to provide continuous training for them. In particular, for those working in the open market, they should be supported, and also there should be counseling for the parents, so that for disabled persons with different capabilities, they should get a chance to find a job. And the relevant commission's policies would also look at the human rights perspective. Next, Association of Restaurant Managers, Mr. Leung Kui Tang. Madam Chair, if we just increase statutory minimum wage, it's irrational. Given the uncertainty in our economy, and there is also a chance that the Fed Reserve would be increasing interest rates, Hong Kong's future is also uncertain. And Hong Kong's political situation is also very unstable. And therefore, that would also add to the difficulties of the catering industry. And if we were to increase statutory minimum wage further, that would only lead to a wave of closures. So we have to understand the difficulties of the employers. We should not ask for an immediate increase to statutory minimum wage. The level should be kept at the current level. And if we were to increase that further, then the cost of the catering industry will go up further, and that would be difficult to afford. And operating costs have also gone up, and we will have to cut costs and cut corners, and that would also have a negative impact on the industry as a whole, and we will not be able to maintain our standard of service, and that would affect labor relations, and therefore it's not the right time for us to adjust statutory minimum wage. We hope that the administration would import workers appropriately, because there are many young people who are not willing to join the catering industry. It's not because of the low wage levels, that's because of the obnoxious nature of work in the industry. The statutory minimum wage, if it were to go up further, then the rippling effect would lead to a wave of wage rises, and the operating costs would go up further. I think the statutory minimum wage should be adjusted by market forces instead of the administration enacting legislation to adjust it. In fact, because of the labor shortage, many employers are already hiring workers at much higher wage levels. Therefore, we are against increasing statutory minimum wage. Thank you. All right. We have Mr. Wong Yun Tat, who has just arrived. First of all, I have to confirm that statutory minimum wage has played its role, and it's not like what the business sector has described it. There has been a wave of layoffs and also closures. I don't think that's the case. And some even suggest that if we were to increase that further, the situation would get worse. That's not true. In fact, statutory minimum wage has enabled our low-wage workers to get an improvement in their living. That's the value of statutory minimum wage for the cleansing workers and also the dishwashing workers. Because of their low education attainment, very often they had been exploited by their employers by paying them very modestly. With statutory minimum wage, we'll be able to realize the hard labor that they have contributed in their work. And they should. So only where employers are willing to offer them higher wages will they be willing to take up those posts. And if you insist that you will have to import workers because there is a shortage of labor, but then they will have to get equal pay. In other words, they will also have to be paid reasonably. In fact, if they are paid equally, then many workers would not mind having more workers imported from elsewhere. In fact, for the jobs that are labor intensive, and if you are not willing to pay more handsomely, then how can you expect that you can recruit more people? For example, for workers working in the old age homes. In fact, these are hard. These are very labor intensive jobs. So how can you expect them to be willing to do it? So I think we have to look at the wage level. All right, for the labor unions, we've been saying that when we asked for $33, you were only willing to offer $30, and so every time when we ask for an adjustment, there is always a $5 gap. So is there a chance that the employers are willing to pay a little more so that workers will be able to get a reasonable wage so that they'll be able to support their families and sustain themselves? So we really hope that we can get $38 an hour. Secondly, wages for the ordinary workers would be reviewed once a year. How come for the statutory minimum wage is not reviewed annually? Well, every year we have inflation. We also have other life pressure. Why is it that our wages are not reviewed annually? I hope that the Commission can work harder so that they can conduct more reviews. Why is it not possible to conduct annual reviews? So this should not have been a problem. And many deputations have also talked about the disabled persons. In fact, they've also contributed their labor and hard work, and they should be respected. All right, we have this assessment mechanism, but then this is not desirable. In fact, there should also be a subsidy whereby the disabled will be able to get the same wage level as the able-bodied workers. All right, all the deputations have spoken. I'd like to remind all of you here that if you'd like to hand in your written submissions, please do so after the meeting, and then we will pass it on to all members. Next, Secretary for Labour and Welfare, can you give an overall response? Madam Chair, I'd like to thank the 17 deputations who have given us their views. All right, there may be a difference in opinions in this issue. All right, the business sector might be worried about the high wages, and then for the labour sector and also for the local groups, they also have strong demands. So, in the process of rolling out statutory minimum wage, we have to balance the interests of all quarters. That's what we have been doing. We have to be very careful and cautious about this. And for the Commission, it will be making its recommendations once every 2 years. And once this recommendation is made, it will have to take into account different sectors or different factors. So what you said has been considered in the process, and of course we have to look at the economic situation, the employment situation, and also the price levels, and also the operating environment, and so on. So all these have been considered very carefully. In fact, we do so on an evidence-based approach. We look at statistics and figures. And on this occasion, the recommendation has been made after very careful and stringent process. We have taken into account the views of the stakeholders, and they've also set up working groups, and they've also invited comments openly. And many of you here have also met with the Commission, and after the recommendation by the Commission has been submitted to the administration has considered all the aspects of the recommendations, and they have done a proper job, because it's a consensus within the Commission, is unanimous, and it's of the view that it should be adjusted upward by some 8.3% to $32.5. And a few employers' representatives have also expressed their concerns, saying that the statutory minimum wage adjustment would also bring in some impacts. Our government economist is also sitting in the Commission, and she has also given her advice. And according to our estimates, we have also looked at the situation.
The SMW has been implemented for about 4 years, and I think it's beyond doubt that this has benefited the workers, and of course the SMW has had some impact on the operation of businesses. But I think the advantages of having the SMW outweigh the disadvantages. If you look at the lowest 10th percentile of our workers, you can see that the cumulative increase of their wages in the past few years was over 40%, and the real increase also exceeded 10%. And this is important for the employees. And also, every time we have an adjustment, we adopt a prudent approach, and we also adopt a gradual approach. We do not, or we're not affected by political considerations, and the adjustments are all evidence-based, based on data. And then I want to point out that there was a 47-hour debate in the LegCo for the enactment of the legislation. The intention was to provide a wage floor. And it was pointed out very, very clearly at the time that the SMW was not intended to be a living wage because it's simply not possible to know how many family members an employee needs to support financially. Then we know that some employees are unable to really provide for their or support their families because he's say the only breadwinner and he has 2 children and as a family of 4. But then we have the LIFA, L-I-F-A, and it will be launched in the second quarter of next year, the latest. So long as they can satisfy the asset limit, they can apply for the LIFA. Now, the self-occupied accommodation will not be taken into account. For a 4P family, if the income doesn't exceed $16,800, and if the family has 2 children, then he can at least get $2,200. And if he works for 200 hours, then he gets $1,000 extra. And as a result, he gets $2,600 in total. So the SMW is intended to be a wage floor only. We think that for those who work who do not want to live on CSSA, we should do our best to help them. And that's why there is the LIFA. SMW benefits both employers and employees. Employees will get protection in terms of their wages, but of course there will be some impact on employers, but I think mutual accommodation and understanding can allow Hong Kong to move forward. And then concerning whether there should be a new review, yes, I want to say that we know why you have this demand. But then the SMW was implemented only 3 to 4 years ago. And so we want to monitor the situation a bit more. And if there are very drastic economic changes, say for example if inflation becomes rampant, then we can have another review during the 2-year period. In fact, there is the AEHS Annual Earnings and Hours Survey, and that survey provides very important data because if we carry out a review, we need data. And there are advantages in having a biannual review. Some may think that there are no advantages at all, but let me explain. It's simple. If there is an annual review, then employers, especially SMEs, may opt for short-term contracts in order to be able to manage their costs better. And I don't think the employees will find this convincing, but I want to say that this is a fact. And also, SMEs do sign service contracts which usually last for a 2-year period. And so if there's an annual review, then SMEs may have adaptation problems. Now, we're not ruling out the possibility of an annual review, but we have to err on the prudent side. We have to be confident that this is going to be beneficial to all parties. After all, the SMW has been implemented for only 3 years. Initially, when the SMW was launched, the unemployment rate was 3.6, now it's 3.3, and over 250,000 new workers have joined the labor market, and out of this number, 100,000 of them are low-skilled female workers, and about 50 to 60,000 of them are middle-aged, low-skilled female workers. We can see that the SMW has attracted new blood into the labor market. Then the poverty line from 14 to about 12%. The poor population from 1.05 million to about 970,000. Employers and employees are in the same boat. We all work for the benefit of Hong Kong. Employers need the employees' service. Employees need to get wages from the employers. So it's not a zero-sum game. For the benefit of Hong Kong, we need to create a conducive business environment for employers. We have to make sure that wages are affordable to employers. At the same time, we need to protect the interests of employees. In fact, we are continuously trying to perfect the mechanism and the system, and we hope that all parties can stand to benefit. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Before I invite members to speak and ask questions, a member of the public has arrived, and I'll invite him to speak. And he is Mr. Chen Chi-kit from the Cleaning Workers Union. I am speaking on behalf of workers who are receiving the minimum wage. They are working for contractors. As you know, contracts are awarded to the lowest bids, and so cleaning workers are forever receiving the minimum wage and no more than the minimum wage. We are disappointed because the increase will only be to $32.5 per hour. The increase is lower than the inflation rate. If you have lunch in a restaurant, you need to pay at least $40. But then a cleaning worker will only get $32.5 after working for an hour. That's not enough to pay for a lunch. And these people have to support their families. Cleaning workers work very hard, and after working for an hour, they can't have enough money to buy lunch. We have been asking for an annual review of the SMW, and we think that the rest day and meal break pay should be included in the SMW. But then all these suggestions have fallen on deaf ears. Those who are hardest hit are cleaning workers working for contractors. Bus fares, MTR fares go up every year, but then these cleaning workers get a pay rise once every 2 years. The Commission uses outdated figures and data to decide on the adjustment to the SMW. And then concerning rest day and meal break pay, cleaning workers are denied such pay. Many contractors try to reduce costs before the SMW is adjusted. For example, no rest day pay, no meal break pay. And so even if a cleaning worker works for 8 hours a day, there is 1 hour of work which is not wage earning. So the SMW should be increased to $38 as soon as possible. There should be an annual review, and rest day and meal break pay should be included in the SMW. Thank you. All right, it's now time for members to ask questions. 3 minutes for each member. Mr. Fernando Zhang. Chairman, thank you. Wages can't catch up with inflation. Wages are not enough for people to make ends meet, and a biannual review is not really desirable. All right, these points have been made by many deputations, but I want to now talk about the SMW for disabled workers. Under the law, we have been allowed to discriminate against the disabled. Wages are at a low level. There is this productivity assessment mechanism. 40% of assessed disabled workers are forced to receive a 40% discount. So in other words, $22.7 per hour. If he works 208 hours a month, that would mean $4,732 a month. So, Secretary, do you think $4,732 is enough? The SMW is intended to protect employees against excessively low wages. How come we allow disadvantaged groups in society to receive wages lower than the SMW level? Mr. Zhang. In fact, I want to say that I'm very concerned about this matter. Disabled persons find it difficult to find jobs in society. The unemployment rate is 3.3%, but disabled persons find it difficult to get a job. The assessment mechanism at that time represented a compromise. We met parent groups at that time, and they said that the SMW would affect the employment of disabled persons. Employers would not hire disabled persons. They would prefer able-bodied persons.
So they are concerned that they might lose their jobs as a result of the introduction of SMW. In fact, wages are not the most important thing. The most important thing is dignity and the purpose. So the choice is whether or not they should get a job or they should stay home. That's why, after very careful consideration, we accepted the introduction of this productivity assessment mechanism. Well, allow me to overrun a little bit. So that would allow those who are working, they can opt for the productivity assessment test, so that the employers, well, in most cases, will have to pay the statutory minimum wage, but then for the working disabled, they'd like to undergo this test so that they'd be able to get an appropriate level of pay. But then every time when there is an adjustment, they would also be adjusted accordingly. Let's say if they're getting $28 an hour, and now if it's adjusted upward by 8.3%, then they would also have an 8.3% adjustment. So it's not that they are not getting any pay rise at all, but then until such time when they raise their hand. So the choice is not in the hands of the employer. It's the option to be taken by the workers. Well, this was a controversial issue. That's why, after a lot of discussion and deliberation, we adopted that, and the EOC also was convinced by agreeing to amend the relevant discrimination ordinance. So parents also agree. And recently there was a review, and Mr. Zhang should be aware that we have also been to the Commission, and we would like to enhance the mechanism in terms of its operation. And by the end of last month, some 420 persons have undergone that test. Majority of those, after the assessment, were able to get pay higher than what they used to have. So that would also mean that there would be further improvement in wages for the disabled workers. Chairman, I think this is a discriminatory move, and therefore we find it not acceptable. We insist that if you were to do it, even if it's just a transition, you should have made up for the gap. So for workers who have been working full-time, well, they would have to get a discounted pay. So 40% of those who have undergone the test, they would only be getting some 70% of the SMW, and even if they work 208 hours, they would only be getting some $4,000+ a month. So this is a discrimination against them. We have 5 members in the queue: Tommy Cheung, Tang Ka-piu, Lee Chet-yen, Leung Yiu-chung, Sin Chung Kai. Tommy Cheung. Madam Chair, first of all, I'd like to put on record just now Fernando Cheung got 5 minutes and 50 seconds, so I'd like to be treated fairly. And for the Cleaning Workers Association, you came in later and you said that your fellow workers had been having a very hard time. In fact, for the catering establishments, well, we don't need you to go out to pay $40 in order to get a lunch box. All you need to do is to be cleaning workers with the catering industries, so we'll be providing meals to you. All right, I'd like to say this to the Bureau Director. All right, last time I put a question to you, and I was saying that why is it that you chose May and June in 2013 as the cutoff date for the review? And in your reply in para 8, you said that well, for the first and fourth quarter, well, there might be bonuses distributed by the employers. That's why that might lead to fluctuation in the wages. But then for the third quarter, usually the wage level would be affected by summer jobs, and therefore the second quarter would be more stable. In fact, you've done many calculations already. That's why I think you've undermined the long-term economic development. I think you were the Bureau Director destroying our future economic development, because you can get promoted and then in one shot you'll be able to completely destroy our economy. So Mr. Lee Chet-yen was calling upon you to provide more welfare. I think you will actually destroy our future. All right. In 2 years' time, you increase SMW from $28 to $30, and you only got the statistics for May and June, and you did not allow us to look at the situation in the first and the fourth quarter. I think the most accurate month should have been September and October. Then you would not be taking into account bonuses, and there will be no summer jobs impact and so on. So in the coming year, in 2017, when you look at SMW, in 2016, you would be providing the figures to the Minimum Wage Commission. I think the Commission is not functioning properly. For the catering establishments representatives, well, if you dare, then you should have appointed someone from the catering sector, and he should not be a full-time worker, so he will be able to give you the most accurate information without being scared that he would be bullied by the workers. In fact, when the CNS department asked for the statistics from the catering establishments, there is no need for you to look at the quarterly figures. All you need to do is to get the figures for a particular month, and you're concerned that your figures might be lagging behind, and you're concerned that you might not be paying sufficiently your workers. Well, Madam Chairman, you will have to give me 5 minutes 50 seconds. Your microphone has been turned off. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, please. There is no reason why you would not allow me to speak. How come you gave Fernando Cheung 5 minutes 50 seconds? How come you're not giving me the same time? You have to be fair. I've been very fair. Fernando Cheung spoke to about 2 minutes, and then Bureau Director asked that he be given more time. That's why for the excess time it was given to the Bureau Director. Okay, Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, Madam Chair. You allow him 5 minutes 50 seconds, and you did not give me the same amount of time. Please do not interfere with the meeting. Why am I not allowed to do so? You're not taking up my time. You're taking up the time of the whole meeting. Are you targeting me? Are you discriminating against the catering industry? Well, just now the Bureau Director spoke longer in his response. So Bureau Director asked for more time. That's why I gave him a bit more time. You allow him to speak until 5 minutes 50 seconds. You've already spoken for 3 minutes. You just gave a speech. You did not ask questions. How come the Bureau Director can ask for more time? What are you doing? Mr. Tang Ka-piu, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll grab my time. I can still speak even if I turn off the microphone. Bureau Director, please be careful when you look at the figures. Tommy Chang, be calm. You can evict me. You can ask me to leave because you did not give me an extra 2 minutes 50 seconds. I don't have to turn on my microphone. I can just ask the Bureau Director to respond. So why did he have to get the figures for May and June? Why didn't he get the figures for September, October, and November? Well, you will have to give me 5 minutes 50 seconds, or else you will have to treat everybody on an equal footing, or else I can only say that you're targeting me. What's your response? You can evict me if you want. Tang Ka-piu, I'm not targeting you. I know. I will continue to speak. Why are you not responding? Bureau Director, well, a simple response to your question. As we have explained in the paper, before the introduction of SMW, we try to make a comparison. So we're comparing apple with apple. But then for what you suggested, I'll ask the government economists to make a very simple response. Please be brief, because we have already given a response in our paper. In fact, for the CNS department to consider the reference period for the relevant study, they've already taken into account international experience in other countries. For example, in the UK, for similar surveys, the date would be set in April, and then in Australia, they would look at the situation in May. And we can also say that initially, when this AEHS was first conducted in 2009 and 2010, initially they took reference from the second quarter, but then upon the introduction of SMW, it was changed to May and June. So that's all I'd like to supplement for the time being. You will have to give me something in writing. For overseas countries, all right, well, would they be increasing that on the 1st of May? So if you take May as a reference date, how can that reflect the real situation? All right, I've noted the comments by Mr. Tommy Chang. I'll convey this to the CNS department. Okay, Tang Ka-piu. Well, just now, some deputations from the business sector said that SMW has not just affected themselves, but also the economy. In fact, at the last meeting and in the interim, I also made some inquiries about some economic data, and I've already got a written reply. Well, let me briefly comment on a few areas so that the business sector can be rest assured. First, on inflation. According to the administration's response during the past few years, if you look at the inflation in Hong Kong, mainly that was led by food prices and also rentals in the private sector. So does it mean that many sectors are suffering as a result of that? Well, before the introduction of SMW for the low-pay sectors, well, if you look at the number of employers, in fact, that went up by some 5%. And if they find it difficult to operate, then how come many people are willing to start their business? And of course, SMW would be good to the economy. Some 255,000 jobs have been created. And as a result, 115,000 CSSA cases no longer have to rely on CSSA. They've withdrawn their application. So you need not worry too much about this. Well, my question for the Bureau Director is, in particular, in the last part, the SMW will be reviewed at least once every 2 years, but that you said that the current legislation already allows the level to be reviewed when necessary. So it does not have to be reviewed once every 2 years. So you said that when necessary, it can be reviewed more frequently. So what does that mean? So who is to decide when it's necessary to be reviewed? Is it to be decided by you or by the Commission? Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, in the legislation, there is no detailed interpretation about what's meant by necessary. So we will have to look at the actual circumstances. As I said, well, if inflation suddenly shot up, all right, if it's double-digit inflation and prices have been going up very quickly, then we do not rule the possibility of asking the Commission to look at the latest figures and give its recommendation to the administration, because to trigger the review, we have to have the Chief Executive inviting the Commission to respond to the aspiration of the community, so that it would look at the prevailing circumstances in making this recommendation. In other words, the administration is to make the decision, and usually you assume that, well, where inflation is shooting up very rapidly, then you can do so. So it's not for the Commission to initiate this, because we also have to look at the actual situation. It doesn't necessarily have to do with inflation. If the economic situation has turned around, and if there were many people out of job, and therefore when you look at when you talk about volatility, well, very often we're talking about some ad hoc situation requiring the administration to review the level of SMW. Okay, members, I hope that you would all understand that our rule is that you will have to ask your question within 3 minutes. All right, you spent 2 minutes 5 seconds. You spent 2 minutes 55 seconds on your remarks, and then the Bureau Director would only be given 5 seconds. That's why I would exercise my discretion to allow the Bureau Director to have a bit more time. So it's not that 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 5 minutes would be given to the individual members to give their speeches. So we hope that members would understand. For the 3 minutes, it includes both questions and answers. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, first of all, I'd like to thank the deputations for coming, and I hope that the Liberal Party, after listening to the deputations, please do not just tell us that economics mean that well, the demand would be infinite, and therefore resources are limited, and you're suggesting that desire is infinite, so workers are only asking for a modest increase of SMW, and you are saying that their demand is insatiable. That's not true. In fact, for the business sector, in fact, you're trying to make as much money as possible. For some people, they have too much money that they don't know how to spend it. So you will have to think about it.
And I want to talk about remarks made by employers in the catering industry. Before there was the SMW, when there was the SMW, when there was the first adjustment to the SMW, when now we are going to have the second adjustment to the SMW, they keep saying that costs will go up, and there will be a lot of operation difficulties. Then if you look at 2010 and 2012, the profit rate of Chinese restaurants rose from 2.4% to 5%. And I think your greatest headache should be increases in rentals. Those who are helping you make money are not creating the biggest trouble for you. In fact, the landlords are giving you the biggest headache. You can see that the cost of land has been seriously distorted. Rentals may go up by 100% or even 200%. Your employees toil and labor for you, and so I hope that you can pause and think about this. Who have helped you make profits? The landlord or your workers? Then Mr. Zhang said that if there were annual reviews, then employers would opt for short-term contracts. How come on the one hand you talk about the shortage of labor, and then on the other hand you are saying that there will be short-term contracts for workers? I don't need a reply from the secretary, because I don't think the secretary's reply will be in any way meaningful. Mr. Leung Yu-chung, Chairman, some say that the SMW will drive up wages in other sectors. I want to say that in the catering industry, it's very difficult to hire a dishwasher. This is because the working conditions are extremely harsh. Workers may get hurt, and they feel very exhausted after work, and they suffer from back pain and also other problems. And so it's really a very tough job if you are to have to wash the dishes for 8 to 10 hours for a restaurant. So you can go and try doing it. These are human beings. They are workers. They are not slaves. We should respect their dignity. I want to say that workers are also entitled to a sense of dignity, although they work for their pay. And as many have pointed out, if you have lunch at Fairwood or Café de Coral, you have to spend at least $40 or so. And an hour's wage is not enough to pay for lunch. Now, Chairman, I would like to say something about the disabled workers. They earn very low wages. Their working ability has to be assessed. Many of them can't get the statutory minimum wage. So can the government provide a wage subsidy to these disabled workers? Some parents say that they really want to advise their children to stay at home and live on CSSA instead of working and spending all the income on lunch and traveling expenses. So please give disabled workers a wage subsidy so that they can get the minimum wage. Mr. Sin Chong Kai, the SMW is entering the 4th year of implementation. So you provide the data to the Commission makes a decision, and then you ask LegCo to tell you yes or no. But then is there a formula to calculate the statutory minimum wage? If the answer is no, then can you make reference to the formula-based approaches adopted in other countries? Mr. Young, I want to respond to Mr. Leung Yu-chung's question. No, I think you should answer my question, and then if you still have time, you should answer Mr. Leung Yu-chung's question. I think you should answer Mr. Leung's question afterwards. Yes, please give Mr. Sin 13 seconds back because I have just used 13 seconds of his time. Now, a formula-based approach may not be desirable. In fact, only France adopts this approach. Australia, the UK, the US take into account a basket of factors. In France, they are also having problems with this approach because it's too rigid and they can't be given the flexibility to take into account other factors, and so they have problems. We we need to obtain data concerning working hours and wages, and we also take into account an array of indicators, including economic growth and the employment rate and so on and so forth. The Commission comprises representatives of employers, employees, and also academics from the universities. Many of them are prominent economists, and we also have the government economists providing his input. But then after you've got all the data, you have to have a formula to calculate the SMW. But then that formula will be too rigid. It will impose a lot of constraints. Now, the Commission makes projections under 20 to 30 scenarios. In fact, if you read the report, you'll see that it's extremely detailed, and I think it's worthwhile spending some time going through the report. Mr. KK Fong. Thank you, Chairman. I also want to talk about disabled employees. Disabled employees have to be assessed, and then they get wages lower than the statutory minimum wage rate, and ultimately they may have to live on CSSA. The Subcommittee on Poverty visited Spain and Taiwan. In Taiwan, social enterprises are promoted to help disabled persons. For example, those who are physically disabled and those who are mentally disabled. And if a social enterprise incurs a deficit, then a subsidy will be provided by the government to the social enterprise, and the social enterprise will make use of the subsidy to pay wages to the disabled persons. And in fact, those social enterprises hire many disabled persons, over 50% of their staff. And then in Spain, they have to draw two lines. In Hong Kong, I think we draw the line at 75% disability. In Spain, I think they have two lines, 20% disability and 50% disability. And say, for example, a company may hire 5 persons with 20% disability, and the wage difference is provided by the government. So you need to encourage enterprises to hire disabled employees. These disabled employees of course have disabilities, but then they in fact are also using their abilities to try to earn a living. So I think you should try to encourage enterprises to hire them. So can you learn from the Taiwanese or the Spanish model? Now, I want to give you an example. There is the iBakery near this building. And the SWD has given $3 million to the Tung Wah Group of hospitals. And the Tung Wah Group has also invested some money in the enterprise. But then that was only one-off. But I think this one-off amount is important. to start up the business. And we do require that at least half of the staff must be disabled employees. So you can see that 60% of the employees are either mentally disabled or mentally ill persons. So in fact, we have also been subsidizing the social enterprises. But in Taiwan, annual recurrent subsidies are provided to social enterprises by the government. Mr. Poon Siu Peng. Thank you, Chairman. I understand that there has all along been a very wide gap between the employers' demands and the employees' demands in relation to SMW. We have been asking for an annual review. When will this happen? Can you give us a timetable? And then the array of indicators. Every time I believe there is heated debate over the array of indicators in the Commission. So can you give us the relative weightings of the different indicators in deciding on the SMW rate? And then concerning Mr. KK Fong's point about providing subsidies to social enterprises in order to pay for the wages of the disabled workers, will you consider this proposal? Secretary, thank you. In fact, the array of indicators include social factors and economic factors. The Commission takes a macro view of these factors. And academics, employers, employees try to come to a consensus. And I think if we fix the weightings of the different indicators, then that may be too rigid an approach. We've accumulated, the Commission has only accumulated a few years' experience, and we think we all need more time to monitor the situation. We need to err on the prudent side. And if there are drastic economic changes in society, say for example, if there is a sudden downturn in the economy, then employees may suffer, because after a review there may be an upward or a downward adjustment of the SMW. So if it's by an annual review, then if wages or if prices drop in 1 year, then maybe the situation may change in the following year. So please do bear in mind that the SMW rate may go up as well as go down. And so I think it's important that we be pragmatic.
We have to make sure that we do the right thing. And if we are confident that this can be done, then we are prepared to consider shortening the time frame. But then we have to play safe. So only when we are confident that it's done properly will we be considering shortening the time frame. All right. All members who would like to speak have spoken. All right. This is now the second round. Who would like to speak in the second round? Lee Chek-yen, Tommy Cheung, KK Fong, Leung Yu Chong. All right. 4 members, 5 members. Sin Chung Kai-tu. Two minutes each. 2 minutes each because of the time constraint. All right, Lee Chek-yen. Madam Chair, I'd like to comment on the annual review. In the UK, they've already done some statistics-based research, and their commission is able to do annual reviews, and the level is also adjusted annually. And why can't we do the same in Hong Kong? And I think the Bureau Director has also been treating the workers unfairly. In fact, just yesterday, we've been told that for all the civil servants seated here, they'll have a pay rise by 3%. All right, how come you're talking about an extra pay rise? It's not the annual pay rise. So you try to compare yourselves with your counterparts in the private sector, and now you're getting this additional 3% pay rise. But then for the outsourced workers, they would not be getting an annual pay adjustment. And even for the outsourced workers, well, I've also asked the cleaning workers in electrical. All right, they joined in September, and now they have not got any pay rise at all. They would have to wait until September. All right, if there is any annual adjustment, well, even for your own outsourced workers, they are not getting any pay rise at all. So would you admit that you have not been able to provide annual adjustment to your workers too? Bureau Director, well, we cannot just copy the experience in the UK, because the situation there is somewhat different from ours, and they've already got SMW for a longer period of time. That's why they've got more experience. Well, from the very beginning, they started with annual reviews and annual adjustment. Do you know that? All right, in the UK, the law never says that it would be annual reviews. They can also stay put for 2 years. But then they are democratically elected. That's why they are different from you. Well, I'm not in a position to comment on that. For example, in the US, during the last 7 years, there has not been any adjustment. It was only adjusted last year in the election year. Next, Tommy Zhang. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just now, I forgot to thank the deputations for coming to give us their views. Whether I agree with their comments is another issue. I'd like to follow up on the point that I asked just now. I also hope that Mr. Ho, can explain a bit further to me. And you looked at the second quarter figures. So have you asked them how much they get? Well, what about casual workers? Do you get the figures from them on casual workers? Well, in 2009 and 2010, yes, I asked them for the second quarter figures, and then recently I asked about the situation in May and June. And of course, the CNS department would be looking at everything, including the period of time and also the terms and conditions of service. All right, if you did not listen carefully, then please listen more carefully now. All right, and when you collected the figures, did you ask them with regard to the casual workers and also the part-time workers that they hired, what is the hourly pay? If you don't know, then you can tell us that you don't have that with you. Well, so what are the details of the survey, and how much did they get on an hourly basis? Well, I do not have the figures with me, but then, as I said, we also asked about whether or not they were hired on a long-term basis or on a casual basis, and so on. So we do have the figures, but then we have to collate them. I don't know if I got it correctly. All right, the CNS department is not just asking the individual operations as to how much the workers are getting. You would go to the companies direct, and you would ask them for the breakdown of the wages. So have you asked them as to how much they pay their part-time workers and also casual workers? All right, time's up. Next, Leung Yu Chong. Madam Chair, just now I also put this to the Bureau Director about the disabled workers. I was asking about whether or not there should be a wage subsidy, because for these workers, well, they should get what they deserve. And of course, when you look at their productivity might be somewhat inferior to their able-bodied counterparts. But then, as we said, are you attaching importance to human dignity? And even if you work as a wage worker, you should also have dignity. So it's like, when ordinary workers can get SMW, they should also get a level comparable to that instead of forcing them to get CSSA. I think I've already answered that in a consolidated manner. In fact, it's a compromise that we introduce the productivity assessment test. In fact, in response to many parents of disabled children, they said that the most important thing is for my children to be able to work, and wages are of secondary importance. All right, they might be earning $18 and so on. So if they have to pay $28, then why would they bother to hire a disabled worker? So I'm asking if the administration would be willing to offer a wage subsidy. As I've said, this is a very major policy change, and this will have to be considered very carefully. Well, for the traveling subsidy, you are willing to do it. All right, you're encouraging them to find jobs. So it's the same concept. You're actually encouraging them to get jobs. So we would also encourage them to keep jobs. All right, for the new recruits, they would normally get SMW. All right, because of the time limit. Please, can you consider this? Anything can be considered. But then at this stage, we do have some policy difficulties, I'll be honest with you. So will you be seriously considering that? All right, if there is room for consideration, we'll be prepared to do that. When? How about the next round? There are policy considerations. It's not just about subsidy for the disabled. Because once you offer a subsidy, there will be policy implications. Sorry, time's up. Please do not get bogged down by this. I'm not trying to get bogged down with you on this. KK Fong? Chairman, I'll be asking a similar question because just now he has not answered the entire question. All right, in Spain, they are already adopting this same approach. So how come in your answer to Mr. Leung Yu Chong's question, which is similar to mine, I don't think you should just make reference to countries that are not doing this. You should also make reference to the value behind some of the countries that are doing this, and also the social benefit that has resulted from this. And if you do not offer this, then in terms of helping workers to become self-reliant, the kind of encouragement that you're giving to them, all right, you are offering them CSSA, but then CSSA cannot do it. So have you looked at the Spanish example? We'll be prepared to offer you passage so that you can pay a visit there to take a look. All right, if a worker is working, and if it's from a needy family. In fact, CSSA does not have a labeling effect. In fact, we're talking about some 10,000 families. They are working, and still they are not able to make ends meet. That's why through CSSA, they have been offered this subsidy. In fact, that has been in existence. So CSSA is to give them support, but then it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be getting full CSSA. If they are just short by some $1,000, then they can get CSSA to make up for it. So have you applied for CSSA before? Do you know how it feels if you're able to work and still you have to rely on CSSA? In fact, the Bureau Director has no privacy at all. He's willing to disclose everything to others. So I think you should take a look at the Spanish case, and you should also have annual reviews. So if you just do it in 24 months, then it will only be adjusted once every 2 years, and anything can happen in 24 months, and I don't think that's acceptable. Next, Sin Chung Kai. Madam Chair, I just have this comment for the annual review. I think is reasonable. Well, the Bureau Director has been telling us that in the law, it just says that it has to be reviewed at least once every 2 years. But then do you have the determination and timetable when you can have annual reviews? Or is it that within this term of government, you're not going to do it at all? Bureau Director? Well, Madam Chair, I've already repeated that many times. In fact, we have to play safe. That's why we have to look at how it works. And also, if there are any changes to our economy, I do not rule the possibility of introducing more reviews. But then let's not forget that, well, the review might not result in a pay rise. It can also result in a pay reduction. So we have to be very careful about this. And if we can have more room to maneuver by having a review once every 2 years, I think there'll be I think if the Commission has been functioning in the longer term, then it will be able to do it more frequently. All right, it's within your term of office. So are you prepared to do it? Well, SMW is for the long term. We are trying to enhance it. So it doesn't follow the term of office for an individual official. So during your term, you're not going to introduce any reviews. We cannot rule out anything. But then we have to look at the prevailing circumstances. We have to look at Hong Kong's overall interest. But then in the next 2 years, are you going to do it? Well, for the next review, that would be in 2016, and we will start that in 2016. And in the process, we'll see how we can further improve it. Anytime, anything will not be ruled out. So if there is anything that we can do to enhance the system, we'll be prepared to do it. All right. We are finished with the first and second round. Are there any further questions? If not, then I'm sure you have already expressed all your views on this. And I'd like to thank the deputations for coming. You may now leave. Thank you. Next, we will deal with any outstanding matters that we have to deal with today. And I just note that last time at the meeting held on the 30th of January, a number of issues were raised by members, and we have now got the administration's response to those issues, and the response is in paper number CB bracket 2 801/14 to 15 bracket 01. Also, Mr. Tang Ka-piu has also asked a number of questions, and the administration has also responded to that. We are asking the members to come back.
Well,
you can refer to the paper, and Mr. Bill Tang has also asked the question, and the reply is in paper CB bracket 2 826 bracket 01. And Mr. Tommy Cheung, you may wish to refer to those papers. And after the members have returned, we'll be doing the clause-by-clause examination.
No
one is taking over the room at 10:30, and as chairperson, I have the power to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. So shall we extend it by 15 minutes?
The chairman has the discretion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes, but I want to put on record that I object to this arrangement. We need 1 or 2 more members.
因為咧會議咧唔夠人都好啦。
Now, I think we'll have to wait till we have enough members. So that's why we have to wait. So is it that we should wait for 30 minutes? 15 minutes. According to the clerk, when the chairman's attention is drawn to the fact that there isn't a quorum, then the meeting will wait for 15 minutes. So when did I ask for a quorum count? 10:27?
係咪可以打鐘？係啦。好，咁我哋而家夠人啦，咁我哋就
We've got a quorum now. So let's continue.
好，咁啊就大家
you can look at the two notices. One is the Minimum Wage Ordinance Amendment of Schedule 3 Notice 2015. You can see the amendment. The statutory hourly wage rate to be increased to $32.5 and with effect from the 1st of May 2015. Right? Any comments? Legal advisor, any problems with the drafting? I have studied both the English and the Chinese versions, and they're in order. Mr. Tommy Zhang. Chairman, I want to tell the administration that I don't want this BF unit to be to act as the bouncer for the secretary for ruining the long-term development and interests of Hong Kong. You have to show the commission the true picture. You are a professional, and I think you do possess the expertise to show the commission the true picture. You are responsible for economic analysis. He is the secretary for ruining Hong Kong's long-term economic interests. So please do not be his sponsor. So next year, the Commission will ask you for some figures and some data, and then you tell the Commission the impact of the statutory minimum wage increase in 2015. Now, whether I like it or not, whether I support it or not, I think what's important is that the data must be accurate. Helen said she didn't know how to predict the rippling effect. But how come I was able to estimate that so accurately? And that was because I did the calculation myself. In fact, that effect can be calculated. You need to be fair to the employees as well as to the employers. I have only one request, and that is you have to give the Commission the most updated figures. Now, this year, in May, the SMW rate will be increased, and then you are going to give the Commission the figures for May and June 2015. How can such figures be accurate? You're not the bouncer for the Secretary for ruining Hong Kong's long-term economic interests. You need to provide the most accurate and the most updated figures to the Commission for its consideration. And I think you should give the Commission the figures for October or November. You said that there is a bonus factor. If you look at the wages at the end of the year, and then you say that if you use the July figures, then there is the summer job effect. But in fact, you can always ask people whether they are only summer job workers. I think you should choose a period where wages are high. In other words, there's a shortage of labor and people have employers have to pay high wages. In May, in June, restaurants do not need to hire extra helpers or workers. But then the situation is different in September and in October. And also, by September or October, you will know the impact of the SMW rate increase better, and you don't have summer workers in September or October. So I think you should adopt the September and October figures. You give the Commission the figures for September and October 2015. That will be much more credible. I, in fact, asked you the question last time. You said that the CNS department needed 9 to 10 months to compile the figures and the data. I think this answer is not convincing. In fact, can you find any place in the world where the SMW rate is increased on the 1st of May in a year? You are a professional. I'm not trying to insult you. I just hope that you can accept my sincere advice, and that is, do not act as the bouncer for the Secretary for ruining Hong Kong's long-term economic interests. All right, so now let's deal with the other schedule, Employment Ordinance Amendment of 9th Schedule Notice 2015. And this is about the monetary cap for keeping records from $12,300 to $13,300. Yes. Any comments from the legal advisor? Both the versions are in order. All right, so let's now come to our timetable. Any comments on this notice, Mr. KK Kwok? Sorry, Chairman, I was late because I was at the ESC meeting. I want to say that the end time of the meeting has been extended to 10:45. Chairman, I just want to respond to what Mr. Tommy Cheung has said. May I refer to paragraph 7 of the paper? Yes, there may be some impact on SMEs caused by this adjustment. But then prices will only rise by 0.3%. Look at the big chain stores. Their prices go up by much more than 0.3%. I think the business groups are merely exaggerating the impact of the SMW rate on their costs. In fact, they are most severely affected by rental increases. Now, of course, we have to accept this increase to $32.5. And I know that at this stage, the administration still refuses to carry out an annual review so that wages can better catch up with price increases and inflation. But I really want to point out that a reasonable SMW will attract more people to take up jobs at the grassroots level. So if you can make them enter the labor market again, that's much better than having them relying on welfare benefits. I think it's important to the development of Hong Kong's human resources market in the long run. If the SMW rate can be kept at a reasonable level. And then for the monetary cap for keeping records, this will be adjusted to $13,300 from the 1st of May onwards. So I want to know how many workers are we talking about? How many employees are we talking about? Ms. Lee can give an answer. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. This is an amendment to the monetary cap on keeping records of hours worked. Before the amendment, the cap is $12,300 per month. Now we are proposing to, in accordance with the proposed SMW rate increase by 8.3%, increase this monetary cap to $13,300. Thank you. What about the number of employees covered? Now, because time's up, I want to know whether members have any further questions. If the answer is yes, then we'll have to hold another meeting. Mr. Zhang. Should I ask my question now? Because time's up, and I, as the chairman, can only extend the meeting time by 15 minutes. So I want to know whether members want another meeting before the Chinese New Year. I can have meetings with you, Chairman, night after day, day after night. What is the legislative timetable, Chairman, please? If we can complete our work today, in fact, I think we've already completed our discussion. And if we can complete our work today, then we can report to HC on the 27th of February. Anything from the Secretariat, please?
Later on today, we're going to extend the scrutiny period until the 18th of March, and as the Chair just said, I will be reporting to the House on the 27th of February.
All
right. So shall we complete our discussion today? All right. If we need to have one more meeting, hands up, please. Yes, Mr. Poon. I don't think we need to have another meeting. And if we need to have another meeting, then maybe, Madam Chair, you can have a meeting with Mr. Tommy Chow. So apparently most members think that we should deal with it today. So let's deal with it today.
All
right, let's finish with the deliberation today. What's the time now? Shall we continue? Sorry, speaker's not coming through. her mic is not on. Sorry, speaker's not coming through.
我一路反對。
I'm against it. It's already 10:46. What are we supposed to do? So I'll talk to the Secretariat and then we'll fix the date and we'll inform members. So do we have to wait until the next time? So the Secretariat will fix the date with you. All right, meeting is now adjourned.